All right. Why did you leave Cumberland Emergency Physicians at the end of '01?
I went to rehab.
And what was that for?
Addiction,
To what?
adrenaline, and work.
Okay. Is that why you were off work for 11 months?
That's exactly why.
Addiction to adrenaline.
Just as much so as if it had been heroin or cocaine or alcohol.
Okay.
I grew up in a home that was not a safe place, not emotionally and not physically. But I had some peers growing up that didn't drink, so I didn't drink. They didn't smoke, so I didn't smoke. They didn't do drugs. I didn't even know there were drugs at my high school then. But to escape me, I started working when I was 16 years old for an emergency ambulance service in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And I came to learn that it's just ruled my whole life ever since. It's why I chose emergency medicine. It's why I worked with the fire department EMS system. It's why I ended up at a trauma center. It's why I worked with the police department SWAT team. And it's why I got into a lot of behavioral problems because none of those activities could heal that hole in my soul. And I finally made enough mistakes, big enough mistakes, that I had to do something about it.
What kind of mistakes?
I was a voyeur.
And is it still your testimony that you went into rehab because of adrenaline addiction?
There were subsets of that. I learned that growing up I had learned to hate myself. And the things that happened to me I blamed myself for. And all of these things were a distraction to get myself away from me. I used to think it was multitasking. I'd be home with the computer in my lap writing protocols or lectures. I'd have the TV on. I'd have the fire department radio next to me. But it was escapism. And
go ahead.
And I then couldn't even be alone in a quiet room with my own thoughts. I would get physically ill.
All right.
And I learned what got me there. I have found some radical forgiveness of family members that were physically violent with me as their target. And I have an older adopted brother who's very emotionally disturbed, and he lives now in a high-rise for the disabled in Nashville. And I take care of him. I pay his rent, pay his utilities. We get along better now. And this whole process has just dramatically changed my life.
I'm sure that's true, but my question is, are you describing it as an adrenaline addiction?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
because those things stirred in me biochemical changes, just as if someone were addicted to alcohol or cocaine or heroin, and it was treated in exactly the same way.
Is being a peeping Tom a symptom of adrenaline addiction, in your opinion, doctor?
That's not my judgment. That's the judgment of the psychologist that took care of me.
You don't have an opinion on it?
No, I agree with that.
Okay. So it is a symptom of adrenaline addiction.
It's a symptom. It's a symptom of the problem, but the problem was dysfunctional thinking.
Well, but I've covered with you 2 or 3 times and tried to pin you down under oath that you say you went into rehab because of adrenaline addiction. That is your testimony, isn't it?
Adrenaline addiction and many subsets.
Okay,
Under
and
that.
being a peeping Tom is one of the subsets of adrenaline
Yes.
addiction. Okay. Have you discussed this with Mr. Carlton?
Yes.
So is he aware of your guilty plea in Nashville to being a peeping Tom, of your suspension for 1 year as a physician, and of the agreed order that was entered with the State of Tennessee Department of Health?
He knows I was arrested and knows that I've been on probation and knows that probation has expired.
So you've told him all that?
Mm-hmm.
When did you tell him that?
Well, I only talked with him for the first time a few weeks ago, but it's been since then. We talked about it again yesterday.
Okay. What'd you tell him?
I shared with him my life story of how I got in trouble and how I got saved.
All right. And you told him specifically about your arrest, your guilty plea, your probation, and your license suspension?
He knows that I've been guilty of a misdemeanor.
Did you tell him that?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me hand you what purports to be the agreed order of discipline from the Tennessee Department of Health. Take a look at it. Let me know if you recognize it.
Yes, I've seen those.
Okay. Page 2 has the findings of fact. Did you tell Mr. Carlton that on October 9th, 2001, you were caught by a homeowner lurking in his backyard wearing a ski mask and black gloves, attempting to look into a first-story bedroom window?
I don't know if he's seen this detail. We have not talked in those kind of details.
That's, I
But
wasn't
he knows
asking you
he
if
knows that it was a neighbor that
I'm not
caught
asking,
me and sent me to
I'm not
to
asking,
help.
not asking if he's seen it. Did you tell him?
No.
Okay. Did you tell him that when the DT yelled at you, you ran, jumped over an 8-foot security fence?
No.
Did you tell him that after that you were restrained by...
We've not discussed any of the details in this.
Did you tell him that when the police arrived they found a video camera in your pocket
We didn't talk about that.
and that it had black electrical tape over the chrome and a piece of cardboard over the red recorder light?
No.
Okay. Why were you wearing a ski mask and carrying a video camera where the shiny parts were obscured?
I was sneaking around in my neighbor's yard.
And who were you trying to take pictures of?
The family.
And not his wife?
Yes.
Anyone else?
I was looking at the whole family.
So you wanted to videotape all of them?
One of the things that I learned in my recovery was that this family, who were acquaintances of ours, were the family that I never had.
My question is, you wanted to videotape all of them.
That's right.
Well, why didn't you just ask them to let you take a videotape? Why are you sneaking around in the bushes in the middle of the night wearing a ski mask and gloves?
That was part of my illness.
So you considered these people to be the family you never had, but it never crossed your mind just to take a picture of them or ask them if you could videotape them. Is that correct?
That is correct.
This is not the only time this happened, is it, Doctor?
No.
How many other times did you lurk in the bushes with a video camera trying to take videotape of somebody who didn't know you were there?
Probably 10 or 12.
10 or 12? Do you still have those videotapes?
Certainly not.
What did you do with them?
They were destroyed.
When?
I don't know. They were destroyed by the police department.
They were destroyed after you were arrested.
That's right.
Before they were destroyed and before you were arrested, what did you do with them?
I watched them
For what purpose?
to be excited.
To be sexually excited?
Yes.
To masturbate?
Mm-hmm.